Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is James Smith. He is the chapter vice president for Trout Unlimited. It is fishing season, folks, so we needed to do a fishing show. So perfect time to have James on. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean.
For those who aren't familiar with Trout Unlimited, tell us all about it.
Sure. Trout Unlimited is a national organization that was founded in 1959. It's made up of over 400 chapters across the country. There's actually about 150,000 members that belong to Trout Unlimited. And their mission statement is to conserve, protect, and restore North America's cold water fisheries and their watersheds.
So it's really not just about trout, that particular species specifically. It's really more about, the conservation of the whole, basically, right?
It is. Its main focus is trout and salmon, which would be considered cold water fish. However, a lot of the work that we do involves working in the watersheds and habitats, and it's not just trout and salmon that live in these watersheds and habitats.
So when as chapter VP, is a chapter a state basically, or how does it work?
Well, each state is organized at a council level that oversees the state chapters. For instance, in Connecticut, we have a state council, and then within the state, there are 8 separate chapters that fall underneath that council. Our chapter in Eastern Connecticut is the Thames Valley chapter. Our chapter, geographically speaking, takes up most of the eastern part of the state, where we encompass all of New London County, all of Windham County, and a portion of Tolland County as well.
Are there times where you'll work in conjunction with the game wardens or in the environmental people or anything like that?
Yes, actually, that's a big part of Trout Unlimited's goal and its mission. We actually work with a lot of other conservation organizations, as well as state agencies, federal agencies, local town agencies as well. It's a big collaborative effort in a lot of cases.
How does one get involved in Trout Unlimited? Like, you are the chapter VP, so you must have been doing it for a little while. You've worked your way up to this lofty position that you have now, right?
Yes, well, I've been a member of Trout Unlimited for about 14 years. I've been fishing my entire life and interested in conservation, have a degree in environmental science. So it was kind of a natural fit for me to become a member of Trout Unlimited. And then I've always wanted to get more involved in Trout Unlimited and be able to participate more. So a couple years ago, I reached out to our local chapter to see if there's any way I could help out the chapter, and I got involved that way and have worked up to vice president.
So when you initially express interest in wanting to be involved, did they look at you and see what your background is and see how you would be able to participate and help? And you obviously have a degree in environmental science, so that seems to fit right in, right?
Yes, it does, and there aren't really any prerequisites to become involved. However, it lends itself to people that are obviously interested in fishing. Most fishermen are also conservation minded.
That's a good point, and because people may necessarily, that's a misconception, I would call it. Fishermen, they would think, well, you just go fishing, you fish, catch as much as you can, and you're kind of a taker when they think of you in that way. But like you just said, fishermen are also conservationists as well.
It's true. It's a sport that if you participate in and it's your passion of yours, without having that conservation aspect to it, you'd be directly impacting the thing that you're passionate about and like to do. So just as a natural evolution, you're concerned about fisheries and habitat and conservation.
What is the state of the fisheries these days, the habitats? And we'll just talk strictly your neck of the woods, since that's what you're involved with.
Well, it's an ongoing battle to monitor watersheds and habitats and streams. The water bodies, streams, brooks, ponds, and lakes.
That's where they're all at.
That's where they're all at, right? Collectively as water bodies. Some of the concerns and impacts that affect cold water fisheries are development. Is a big issue. Not only development, but just poor development practices.
Dumping, right?
Yeah, and developments that are put in places that could be near a water body and impact them. For instance, if you have a large development that goes in and they put in a large parking lot, that's a big, hard, impervious surface, asphalt. That when we have rain events, the water has to run off that asphalt, and oftentimes, it gets into the drainage systems, and it can end up in water bodies and filter in pollutants from the parking areas, and then also affect the temperatures. Temperature of the water body as well. Elevated temperatures. If it's a warm summer day, and you have a rain event, all that rain gets heated up and gets distributed into, it could be a brook, a stream, or a lake.
Are architects these days more cognizant of that?
Yes, absolutely. It's come a long way. Town planners, zoning boards, they're definitely more attuned to how to develop properties based on best practices for managing runoff and collecting that before it enters a water body. So a lot of times you'll see, if you go to a big shopping mall development like a Walmart area, they'll have retention ponds that actually hold the runoff, and it gets filtered in through the system in the retention pond as instead of going directly into a water body.
And it just makes sense that you would take these kind of precautions. Now, this isn't your field of expertise, but my staff here gets on me because I'm a big fan of having Route 11 be finished, so there's a straight shot to Hartford from here. But if they are going to do it, I guess the Army Corps of Engineers or the environmentalists, basically, you need to include a greenway with it. And that just kind of, just a way of helping the environment if you are going to continue a highway, asphalt, not cement, but, a tar road, a highway.
Sure.
Just something like that just to kind of help the environment along with your highway.
Right. And yeah, to evaluate what would be impacted if that road were to be put in place, and to use best up-to-date practices to develop that particular road.
Here's another misconception. People might think that conservationists are against development, and that's not necessary. I've had lots of people on this show that they're not against development. It's about working together, right?
No, that's absolutely right. And I think, I can't speak for Trout Unlimited as a national spokesman by any means, but I do think their stance is they're not against development outright. They're just for smart development. So they like to see development when it takes place to be planned properly, and it's in everyone's best interest so that it doesn't impact our water bodies.
How much direct contact do you have with the national Trout Unlimited? Are you fairly autonomous? Do you do your own thing? Do you work with the other local chapters around you a little bit more?
Yes, we do. We work with other local chapters quite regularly. We share resources, share ideas. If another chapter has done a project that we're interested, we don't have to recreate the wheel. We can go to them and get their assistance. So there's definitely some sharing that takes place throughout the local chapters. We also rely on the state council that I mentioned earlier, who's our state governing body. The council has the most direct interaction with TU National, but they're certainly available to us and a tool for us. They have a very robust website that's a resource with lots of key information that the chapters utilize for their different projects and events, and for organizational purposes as well.
Let's talk about something that people want to know, and that is when fishing season starts. When's opening day?
Yes, it's coming up soon, and today's a very nice day out, so it's going to remind a lot of people that spring is almost here, and fishing season officially opens for trout on April 11th this year, which is the second Saturday of April. Traditionally, opening day has always been the third Saturday in April. Recently, the state of Connecticut changed opening day to coincide with Rhode Island, which is our neighboring state, and for other reasons. So fishing season from this point on will be opening day on the second Saturday in April.
And that makes people excited. And by the way, if you're watching the show after that date, fishing season is on, so go do it. But let's talk about the next thing, which would be your fishing license, which you need to have.
Yes, in the state of Connecticut, everyone's required to have a fishing license that they purchase from the state. That can be obtained online if you go to Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection on their online licensing system. You can purchase your license through them. There are some folks that are excluded from purchasing a license. I don't know all the finer details of that, but I know kids aren't required up to a certain age to have a license. I believe once they hit 16, they're required to have a license. And then also, I believe seniors, once they hit a certain age, are not required to have a license.
So when you do, you have your fishing license. If you don't have one and you go fishing, you run the risk of, and there are not that many game wardens in the state, but you do run the risk if they wanted to ask you to see it and you don't have it, then you get a fine, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's, it's a violation of state law, so you definitely want to have your license. The other thing is the funds that we all pay out to purchase our licensing go back to the resource. So, it's $28 for a resident license in the state of Connecticut. That's for freshwater.
That's a year, right?
That's for the year, correct. It's $10 a year for a saltwater license. If you purchase them together, you get a discount, and I believe that's $32 a year. So those funds go back into the resource.
Why is there a difference between the salt and freshwater licenses? Is it just because some people have a preference, and well, why is one more expensive than the other? Do you know?
I don't.
But it's just weird. Now, are you? I know you're a fisherman. Do you also mess around in the saltwater area, not for work, but for pleasure?
I do. Yeah, and that's I think that's true with a lot of trout fishermen in Connecticut. We have Long Island Sound. Right
You live
in
on the shoreline. There's
Right.
no way you can't, right?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of us definitely are out for striped bass and bluefish are probably the two main.
Those are your big boys,
Yeah,
right?
those are the main sport species we have here in Connecticut.
We're going to take a break and come back. Does Trout Unlimited have? Do you want to use the local Trout Unlimited website? Do you have that, or you just want to use the national one?
Well, we can do both.
Okay.
They're real easy. The national website is www.tu.org. Our local Thames Valley Trout Unlimited chapter website is www.thamesvalleytu.com.
All right. James Smith is the chapter vice president for Trout Unlimited. We'll take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is James Smith, Chapter Vice President for Trout Unlimited. When we went to the break, I think it was supposed to be a .org instead of a .com, right?
That's correct.
The correct graphic is up on the screen, though. So let's get back into it. We have just come out of a miserable ice age, apparently, this winter we just had. So that seems like an appropriate place to talk about ice fishing, which doesn't necessarily coincide with trout season per se, right?
Well, there are ponds and lakes in Connecticut that are stocked with trout. So ice fishermen do target trout, when everything's frozen. And this year, obviously, it was a very good year for ice fishermen.
You think? Yeah. This would be the one year where you wouldn't really have to worry about falling through because it's just, so thick. It was so cold for a while,
Yeah, we had good ice for once I think February hit. We've had ice all the way up until a few weeks ago. people were able to ice fish.
You have to be trained properly, I think, to do that. You have to be careful and know what you're doing when you're ice fish.
Absolutely, you have to make sure there's plenty of ice and it's safe. You don't want to go out too early, and you don't want to stay out too late in the year as well. Ice starts to degrade once we start getting some warmer temps and some rain.
So trout are swimming all year round, even in sub-zero temperatures?
Yes,
Sub-freezing?
trout are cold water fish. They become a little less active in colder temps, but they're adapted and evolved in cold water, and they're available under the ice throughout the winter.
Now, when the certain areas, lakes, ponds, whatever, that are closed during the winter on purpose, it's for restocking purposes, right? That's the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, that's correct. Just like our rivers and streams, most of them close at the end of February. The same goes for the lakes and ponds that are stocked. There are some rivers and streams that actually have special management practices that are open year-round for fishermen. They're called they're called trout management areas. There's also wild trout management areas, and those have special regulations, and most of them are not subject to closures throughout the year.
You know, when we talk about environmental concerns, conserving, what about from nature's point of view, like invasive species? Is that an issue? Is that a problem?
Yes, absolutely. That's a big problem. I think we see that across the country and throughout the world. There's been a lot of different invasive species that have been brought over to our country from other countries. One of the big ones that we have in the trout fishing world is a little small organism called Didymo, otherwise known as rock snot. And
That's a real name, huh?
it's a real name.
Yeah.
It's described as dirty. It has an appearance of a cotton ball almost, a dirty-looking cotton ball that blankets the bottom of the stream bed and chokes out the aquatic life.
The bottom feeders?
Well, it's the insects that live in the river that trout feed on. So that's a dangerous invasive species. There's other invasive species that fishermen are concerned with.
How do they get here?
Usually they're transported. A lot of them are transported by shipping containers that come over, or boats, cargo ships that pick them up in different waters, and
They end up in streams and lakes and ponds.
right, and then they're easily carried over from one water body to the next. If you go fishing on one particular river and you pick up an invasive species on your gear or on your boat, and then the next place that you go, it could be the same day or even shortly after that, you may introduce that species into a water body. So
Will a good fisherman check his gear and clean his gear and make sure these things aren't as much of an issue?
yes, absolutely. In the case of Didymo, the rock snot, there's practices that fishermen.
You can't say that enough times, by the way. That's fantastic.
You're supposed to check your gear visually, and then also you can use a diluted bleach solution that will kill the organism and prevent it from being transferred.
I want to throw some buzzwords at you, that are hip right now. Sustainable fishing. Talk about that a little bit. What does it mean, first of all?
Sure. Sustainable fishing is basically commercial fishing that allows the resource to continue to thrive without diminishing populations. So it's practices that are put in place, limits on amount of catch. The state and federal agencies regulate fisheries and put in rules and regulations to prevent overfishing and have the fishery become more of a sustainable fishery.
For a regular Joe, if he's out fishing and he's got his license and everything is on the up and up, are there limits for him just as a regular person as far as how much?
Yes, all the rules and regulations are posted on Connecticut DEP, DEEP now website, as well as each angler is giving a copy of the Connecticut Angler's Guide, and within that guide it has all the limits that they're regulated to. There are limits on number of fish that each fisherman can catch, as well as the size of the fish has to be a certain size.
As we are talking about this, we are learning today. That means when you conserve, when you're into conservation, you are teaching, you are educating, and hence, you are getting involved in educational programs too, right?
Yes, that's a big part of Trout Unlimited's mission. Is we get involved in a lot of youth education in the state in our area. Trout Unlimited has some very interesting programs, one of which is called Trout in the Classroom. That's actually a national initiative that many local chapters carry out. Basically what that is a program that supplies different schools in the area with trout eggs, and they supply the schools with the equipment to incubate the eggs and develop them into fish fry, and it's all coordinated with the teachers at the schools. So the students get to see trout born in an aquarium, hatched into fry, and then when it comes time, when they're big enough, they actually take the fry and they release them into their local waters.
I like that. That's very interesting. And the kids seem like, I would imagine, are very into it too, right?
Yes, the kids, they really enjoy that. It's a very hands-on program, and it helps promote and develop, spark kids' interest in the outdoors, nature, and science and fisheries.
In the beginning of the show, I asked you how you got involved, and you explained how you worked your way up. For others, if they're watching the show, or maybe they have already been involved, now they know about Trout Unlimited. How does one become involved in Trout Unlimited if they're interested, and what ways can they get involved?
Well, sure. First and foremost, if someone's interested in Trout Unlimited and they've, for some reason, one reason or another, they haven't actually become a member, I would encourage folks to come out to one of our monthly meetings. We hold monthly meetings the third Tuesday of each month, with the exception of June, July, and August. We take those months off.
To go do some fishing, right? Yeah.
Right, and just to have a little bit of break during the summertime. At our monthly meetings, people get a good idea of what we're all about. We usually have some fun events that take place. We do some fly tying demonstrations. We do a nice raffle, and then we always have a feature presentation of a local area expert that comes in and gives a talk. Could be an interesting talk from a guide, a fishing guide that's in the area, or it could be more of a scientific-based program from one of the fisheries biologists from the state of Connecticut. So I encourage folks to come out to our meetings, but then also, if you're interested in joining Trout Unlimited, the best way to join is to visit the Trout Unlimited national website, which again is tu.org, www.tu.org, and there's a tab at the top of the website marked Join, and you can click on that tab and get information on how to become a member of Trout Unlimited. Also, you can visit our local chapter website, thamesvalleytu.org, and there's all kinds of information on there on what we do as an organization and how they can become involved. We're always looking for volunteers. We have a lot of projects that require the help of our membership. Even if you're not a member and you just want to come out and get a feel for what we do, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to come to our meetings or participate in one of our local events.
Sounds good. Let's take one more break and come right back. I'm with James Smith, the chapter vice president for Trout Unlimited. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. So that is our show for today. James Smith, events coming up. People can go check them all out at the website, right? Stream cleanings, things like that?
Yes, we have a couple of stream cleanup events that are coming up, and the information is listed on our website.
Which is, one more time, we got the graphic up on the screen too.
Sure, the website is www.thamesvalleytu.org.
All right. James Smith, the chapter vice president of Trout Unlimited. We learned a lot today. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.